What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We're going to give you the best and worst case scenario for the Georgia Bulldogs for the upcoming 2021 college football season. Under Kirby Smart, Georgia has won an SEC championship. They've made it to a national championship, but only one college football playoff appearance. What about 2021? What's the best case scenario for Georgia as we look at the regular season? We're going to show you what we think their best case is. And first, let's take a look at what it's going to take to get there. What is going to have to go right for Georgia to reach their full potential and their best case scenario this upcoming season? We're going to start with the wide receivers. You just need the wide receivers to stay healthy. That is a big deal for Georgia now that George Pickens has gone down. That is a big loss. He was going to be their top target this year. They've recruited at a level where they've got talent at wide receiver. This is probably the deepest wide receiver group that we have seen from Georgia in quite some time. So losing Pickens, it's not the end of the world if you're Georgia, but you don't want to lose anyone else. You need everybody else to stay healthy. Jermaine Burton's going to play a big role for them this year. Karis Jackson. You know, they had injuries last year. Jack Saint went down with the injury. A couple other guys were injured. So that has been an issue for Georgia. They need to keep these guys healthy. If they're going to reach their full potential on offense, they need this talented group of wide receivers to stay healthy. Also, they need the secondary to step up. This is probably the biggest question mark on this team when you just look at the roster because of everything that they lost from last season. Tyke Smith, the transfer coming in, an all-conference player last year, is going to be a big boost for them. I feel much better now about the Georgia secondary than I did before they got him, and that's a big pickup for them. But still, they're going to be overall pretty young. They don't have a lot of depth as far as guys that have played a lot of time. You look at that cornerback spot, that's an area where you're going to have some youngsters in there. Kelly Ringo, Jalen Kimber, Amir Speed. These guys are talented players. They're big-time recruits, but they really haven't had a whole lot of experience. So that's going to be, I think, a really big key for them is this young secondary stepping up. I feel a little bit better at the safety position, but those corners are definitely young. Again, talented, but inexperienced, and they're going to have a big test right out of the gates, a big game against Clemson, against a very good group of wide receivers. So they're going to need them to step up this upcoming season. JT Daniels is a star. That's going to be the best case for Georgia on offense. We know, again, if the wide receivers stay healthy, we know what they've got at running back. You could lose a couple of guys to injury, and they'll still be okay at running back. They are that deep, that talented at that spot. And they've got some young, talented quarterbacks as well, but they need JT Daniels to be a star this year. And we saw flashes of that last season. We saw him, look like an all-American type player at times, a little bit inconsistent. But, he was coming off the injury. This was his first year at Georgia. Now that he's got a full offseason to go through, learn the playbook, build chemistry with these wide receivers, and get even healthier, get more comfortable and everything, he has the potential to be a superstar this year. He has a chance to be a Heisman contender. He has a chance to be, I think, the best quarterback in the SEC. If he can do that, if you've got that type of star at quarterback leading this team with the talent that they have, Georgia has a chance to be really good this year because, again, they've got the talent everywhere else. It's probably the best quarterback, at least potential-wise, that Georgia has had in a long time, maybe since Matthew Stafford. This kid is really talented, and if he can put it all together for them and be a star at quarterback, Georgia, again, becomes very dangerous offensively. And then you need the O-line just to do their job. I don't think the offensive line has to be the best offensive line in college football for Georgia to be great, but they've got to give JT Daniels some time. He's not the most mobile quarterback, so he needs some time back there in the pocket. They've got some talented running backs. They don't need the biggest holes. They've got talent there, but you got to do enough on the offensive line. They need to do their job if they're going to be successful offensively. We saw last year, especially in the run game, the offensive line struggled at times. There were times where they really just could not run the football, and that's something that they're going to have to make sure they're able to do. You can have the most talented wide receivers in the world, the most talented quarterback in the world, the best running backs, but if you don't have any holes to run through, if you don't have any time to throw the football, you're not going to be effective offensively. Now, Georgia is talented. The offensive line, like I said, is good enough. I think they're absolutely good enough, but they need everyone to do their job. stay healthy. Again, that's a big, best case scenario for every team. But if they can do all of that, get the offense with JT Daniels and these wide receivers staying healthy, the passing attack that they should be able to have with the run game, the running back that they have, that offensive line does its job, Georgia, again, can be really, really good this upcoming season. So we look at the schedule, and we'll talk about the best case scenario here with this schedule. Of course, Clemson, that first game is the one that jumps out at you. That's going to be a very tough matchup. I think, it's a 50-50 game. I don't see Georgia really having an advantage against Clemson. I don't really see Clemson having an advantage against Georgia, but it's going to be a really tough game for both teams. That's the big one. You've got Florida in there. We don't know for sure how good they're going to be, but we think that Florida is going to be a top 15 type team again. Maybe not as good as they were last year. Those are your two biggest tests. Auburn on the road, rivalry game. That one could be a little tricky. But overall, the schedule for Georgia really isn't that bad. And I think you can pretty much count these other games as wins. UAB, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri, Tennessee, Charleston Southern, Georgia Tech. It would take a big upset for Georgia to lose one of those games. It would take a really big upset. Missouri's a good team, but does anybody really think Missouri is going to go into Athens and beat Georgia this year? Same thing with Kentucky. Kentucky will be good, but I don't think either one of those teams has enough talent to where they're going to be able to beat Georgia this season. So again, we go back to these three games: Clemson, Auburn, and Florida. Can Georgia win all three of these games? They're going to be favored against Auburn. They're going to be favored against Florida, more than likely, probably by about a touchdown. I think they'll be clear favorites. Although those games I think will be tough, they absolutely can win both of them. And then that just leaves Clemson. So really, I don't see any scenario where if they play their best and everything goes their way, I don't see a scenario where they don't go 12-0. I think the best case scenario for Georgia is 12-0, going undefeated in the regular season. Obviously, going past that, you've got to beat Alabama. If they're 12-0, though, and they lose to Alabama or whoever they play in the SEC championship, I shouldn't get ahead of myself, whether it's LSU or Texas A&M or Alabama, whoever's in that game. If they win that game or lose that game, if they were 12-0, they're probably still going to make the college football playoff. But I think, again, this team is talented enough. This team is talented enough to where they can go undefeated in the regular season, and really, I think they're good enough to win it all. So the best case scenario for Georgia is to win a national championship. Yes, finally get it done and win a national championship in 2021.